Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today's pick a card we're going to ask, what do people think about you but don't say? This is a topic I do every once in a while. They're kind of fun to do. They're interesting. And of course, people's opinions and the people that you're mixing with change over time. So even if you've seen one before, this will probably bring something that's more up to date and so forth. What inspired me was I just recently bought the tarot deck that you're seeing there, which is called the Indie Tarot. And it is a very modern, vibrant, people-centric deck. And I was thinking about a couple of other modern, vibrant, people-centric decks. I have the Spirit of Life Tarot and the Highly Sensitive Tarot Heartlight Edition. That's relatively recent that I got this. This one I've had for a while. But what I felt was I wanted to do a topic that really focused on people, because I felt like that's what's kind of common across these decks, and they're all very bright and colourful, and I just wanted that kind of energy. Though we will be looking at what you may not be happy about as well as what you might be happy about in terms of what people think of you, and looking at how to address that and know how to understand it better and leverage what's really good as well. But that was the inspiration, so hope it's going to be really, really colourful. The other thing I want to say at the beginning too is that there's a way of finishing the readings that I'm just testing out. I actually filmed another pick a card earlier today, and I'm not really sure whether this one will play before that one, so I'm going to just explain it just in case. But what I'm doing, instead of just ending with an oracle deck and a card to bring it all together, I'm going to use another tarot deck, and I'm going to lay out 5 cards. So what I'm going to ask you to do is choose a number between 1 and 5. And I will repeat this for those who don't watch the introductions, but if you do, keep in mind a number 1 to 5, because that I'm going to have 5 different tarot cards, and with each of them I'll say, what does that mean, depending upon what number you actually chose. So just testing that out. And as I said in the introduction of the other one, if this works for you, great, let me know. If you think it doesn't really work or add anything, let me know. It's not something I'm going to do every time, but I'm just sort of testing it out as a different way to finish off the reading and maybe make it a little bit more specific separate out the various messages a little bit more to really focus in on you, since this is a collective reading. Okay, so with that introduction, I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory as we go through. This is just what people think of you and what to do about it, so to speak. So for what I did was I asked for each of the decks the first major arcana card to give us a bit of an idea about that and to help with the choice. So for pile number 1, we have the World. For pile number 2, we have Death. Don't be frightened of that. Death is usually about change and transformation and growth, so I wouldn't worry about that. And pile number 3 is the Star. So you can go to more than one if you want. There might be particularly if you know a lot of people, you might sort of have different sort of groups, and you want to kind of go, oh, this sort of group of people I think is going to be number 1, and this group is going to be 3. Whatever works for you. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the Indie Tarot and to the World card. What we have here are 3 cards of the Emotive Expressions deck. So there are expressions on faces underneath these, and I want to show one at a time, and we're going to be looking at a kind of expression energy that would be familiar and how people respond to you, one that might surprise you, one that maybe they show when they're talking about when you're not there or something like that. And also this will be people that you already know. This is also what new acquaintances tend to sort of their first reaction. So it's just a bit of fun. Don't take it too much to heart, if any of because we're going to really get into this in more detail as we go through. But I'd certainly say, coming to the World card, I mean, this is a very positive card. It can mean a number of things. For some people, you might be their world, literally. So, you could be to your parents, if you're a child, you could be their world. To your lover, you could be the world. You could be a teacher of people, and, the young children that you're teaching, you're the world to them. This is a very positive energy, and you can certainly see a great deal of joy, the sort of sense of like harvest and summer and all of that kind of energy, and a sort of a freedom to it. So I think in general, people see you as joyous. People see you as somebody who they could see you as very well traveled. They could see you as very worldly. There's a number of things that you can extrapolate from the world. They could also see you at the moment as someone who's completed something important, so you might be coming to this reading at a very specific stage. You might have just graduated, you might have just got a promotion, you might have started a business, and you've completed a cycle that is taking you to the next level. So for some, this reaction may be quite specific around something you've completed, something you've achieved that impacts how they see you, whether they're very admiring, whether they're jealous, whether they're your cheerleaders, whether they find you inspiring, whatever it might be. But very, very positive sort of energy. The other thing too that I get from the world, and kind of esoterically, is a sense of integration, a sense of synthesis. I know I read many years ago a accompanying book to the Thoth Tarot, and it talked about the world or the universe in the Thoth system as being a person who synthesizes a lot, who has a lot of breadth of knowledge, breadth of experience, and can kind of see it as a cohesive whole. So for some, that may be operating as well. So that's just to give some high level points. We're going to look into this in a lot more detail with tarot and other cards, but very positive start with. Now this, in terms of the expressions, there may be some nuances, some challenges or whatever. But firstly, we're going to look at what you would kind of know, what would not surprise you about the people that you know. Okay, so there could be some jealousy. There could be a little bit of jealousy. There could also be they find you so vibrant that it's a bit exhausting. You may have people around you actually who feel not as inspired. You might put a lot of energy into inspiring people actually. So people around you who know you may kind of like see you particularly. I mean, you may even have a career where you coach people or you mentor them or something like that. But it's interesting because there's almost the opposite impact here. There is a sense of great joy and openness that they see, but those that you know, when they see it, I just wonder whether you're a high achiever and people kind of like they almost feel a little bit tired being around you because you are so energetic. Now, this doesn't mean things are bad, but it may be something that you experience quite a bit. You sort of have this sense of achievement, getting on with it, doing things, trying new things and building those to achievement. Some people might find it a little bit hard to keep up. What might surprise you in a reaction? Some people really like it. I actually think maybe a lot of, and it'll be interesting to see, a lot of people see you as inspiring. A lot of people are going like, it doesn't matter what your gender is. I'm just saying, you go girl, yes, queen, all those kind of like statements. So I think that you have a very big personality and what you sort of see and expect is that people are kind of like sometimes feel you're a bit much and they can only take you in small doses. But, they actually really enjoy you for all of that. This is like if you were a young child who was incredibly delightful, you're wonderful fun to be around. I'm not saying you're a young child. I'm giving you an example. Wonderful, wonderful fun to be around. But at the end, it's like, oh, okay. That person has more energy than me. But like there is a lot of admiration there and a lot of enjoyment. And I think kind of some fellow feeling because they almost look a bit alike and a kind of sense of, yeah, that's inspiring. That's something that I would want to do. Like, look at that, look at it go. It's wonderful. So I think even if there is a little bit of jealousy or a little bit of exhaustion, by and large, it's more positive than you possibly even realize. And then what do new acquaintances feel when you're a tour de force, basically? You're a very major life presence. What's the expression for those who when they first meet you? It's like, whoa, wow, okay. There is a liking, but it's a little bit hesitant. So you're a very big personality. If you've come to the right rating, if you don't feel that you respond to this, that this feels right, go to one of the others. I mean, I feel if you were drawn to this, you are that kind of energy anyway. You're full on. You're on all the time, basically, or you appear to be. I'm sure that you do actually rest sometimes, but huge amount of accomplishment, huge amount of energy, huge amount of enthusiasm. And when people first meet you, it's like, whoa, okay. You're kind of the life of the party. You're the person who's charismatic when you walk in the door. So that can draw criticism, questions, and jealousy. But I think by and large, you are a force of nature. That's what this is showing very strongly. So let's get the tarot and get a little bit of an idea. So we're going to look at what praise do you get? What do people praise about you that you're not aware of, that they haven't told you to your face? We're then going to look at what they might question, criticize, or not understand about you. And then we're going to have a look at what might they project on you. And this is kind of interesting with this one. You may particularly The people who enjoy you may be people who are very much like you or want to be like you. But anyway, let's see firstly what kind of praise. Let's start really positive. What kind of praise is said about you behind your back, like that you don't know about? Temperance, Six of Coins, or Six of Pentacles, Two of Swords, the Empress. Oh, look, the Empress in the World. There's a very Empress feeling in that Harvest sort of feeling. And the Page of Swords. Okay. For a start, it's all upright. This is you. You're kind of like, I mean, you probably do have your secrets and your nuances and all that sort of thing. I'm not suggesting you don't. But I do think that, like, people do feel, you're the real deal, and they do sort of see that energy as being very true and very organic. So people think you're very balanced. For all that you've got all this energy, it's not too much ego. It's just enjoyment. Like they think that you have things balanced. They think you're very healthy. They will say this person has their work-life balance. They might be full of ambition and full of activity, but they always have time for fun. They're balanced around all of that. And if you are looking for that kind of balance and inspiration, go to see this person is the sort of thing they say. They also think you're very generous. They may, I think, a little bit of the kind of consternation. The Six of Coins is a very generous card. It's a beautiful card, but it does represent a power imbalance. So they may feel that you are more successful than them, or your generosity makes them feel like they need to either be able to repay it or they feel a little bit lesser. And there is a little bit of that. It'll be interesting to see when we get to, what criticism or questions might they have. They do see you as someone who is generous in your time and in your attention and in your emotions, but I think they also see you a little bit above them or a little bit more successful. They see you, the fact that like the Two of Swords, a person sitting on a very high rock here looking out into a very big environment, I think they see you as someone who has a lot of potential, has already risen or already succeeded in a lot of things, has completed whatever's necessary, is ready for the next step. So I think, they do praise it. They do think that this comes from a very genuine place, and they think that you'll make decisions because you come from a balanced, generous place. They think that you're going to be successful. They think you are nurturing. If you have children, or if you're thinking of that, or if somebody is a potential lover looking at you as a potential either mother or father, depending upon your gender, of a child, they definitely think that you have that. And they think you're really good at communication, and really you stay in communication. I think I wouldn't be surprised if people think, like, where do you get the time in the day to do all of this? But they do. They think that you are very, very clear in your communication, generous in your communication, you're nurturing, you're able to make decisions and just get on with it because you sort of know that you can balance things and always course correct. And they think, like what they say in praise, I don't think they think there's artifice. I don't think they think that you've got a lot hidden. The fact that it's all upright to me suggests that people think not that you're an open book, but that you're, that there isn't a sort of sense of something that is being hidden away from them. So given that, what do people think? What might they say that's either, it doesn't have to necessarily be criticism, but it could be questioning or not understanding, or they find a bit curious about you. Like what sits in the kind of, the more, I'm not sure sort of energy, or, where you might get jealousy and so forth as well. Four of Cups, Ten of Coins, Ace of Coins. Okay, all right. I think something's a little bit clearer already. Ace of Swords, the Hierophant. I think a lot of where there is people who question or are competing or, feel a bit blocked or a bit jealous, it's mainly in your workplace, I have to say. Like that has almost some of the energy, like of the kind of like, So I think a lot of that, I think if you could relate to that sort of like the expression of tiredness, I think that you can burn the candle at both ends at work and really get on with things, and you're a bit indefatigable. And I think that sometimes they sort of feel like you're not emotional. You are very generous, but some, and I think in the workplace, may question that. They might say, is there a heart there? Because you seem to be incredibly focused on success and money and status and achieving things, and you've already done a lot. There's nothing wrong with this, but this is what people might question. But they also, interestingly enough, they think you're very successful in, whatever is a sort of, status driven and even to some degree spiritually driven, like the kind of the structures and the regulations of the world. You really can work very well with that. There's a very strong kind of Capricornian energy in a way associated with this. So you're very good with the powers of the world and understanding the rules of the world. But they think that you want to do something very new, or they think you're about to change, leave, move on to something. There is something about you've completed something. They know there's something else up your sleeve. They expect that it's going to be very future focused and very, like it's a new idea, and they expect you're going to be successful with it because you're just normally successful. But I think they're curious or they're questioning what that is. And some of them might want to actually go with you. I'm not sure whether you'd actually take them with you. So I think that it's more a curiosity than anything, but they do think that you're very, very materialistic and very career success oriented. But you are also kind of like inspirational. But yeah, they might question that. And they might sometimes question, depending upon the workplace that you're in, if you're working, they might wonder whether you really fit in. You seem to be really successful, but like you're so different in some ways, how is it that you fitted in? Some of them might kind of like not understand what your secret source is. So that energy is there. Okay, so then what might they project on you? So I'm just going to get 4 cards for that one. Like what might others project onto you that's really more themselves? Nine of Wands reversed. 10 of Wands reversed, 5 of Cups, 8 of Wands. I was just about to say I did riffle shuffle these and some will be reversed, but it was also like what is interesting is that they are saying that is questioning. They don't see any subterfuge in you. They're not sure what your secret source is, but they think you're very honest and very open. So I think that's good. So even when they're questioning, criticizing, or jealous, they don't see subterfuge, but they wonder how you manage to make it all work, which goes back to the temperance thing. But I think this is very much in an office or a work environment where you're kind of very successful but very different. What they project that you kind of like are avoiding the difficult conversations. So maybe they feel like you're kind of very open, and one of the ways though that you move forward, particularly in your career, is that you just avoid any burden of difficult conversations or difficult people, that you're very upbeat and that it has to be good all the time. Like that might be something that they feel, and I don't think this is true. This is just what people think, but I think they're projecting that on you. I think if they are avoidant of difficult situations, then they're going to kind of project that on you to say, oh, well, so are you, and that's how you've been successful, as opposed to dealing with the issues that I'm seeing, sort of thing. So there's a projection outwards on that level. They also think that you kind of like to just delegate energy and just leave other people to sort it out, but that's what they would prefer to do. Remember, this is what they're projecting. They project on you that if you are disappointed, you will just leave. And there is a bit of an energy here because of the 2 aces that they might be thinking, well, you've been successful now, but if it's not enough for you, you might leave. So they kind of really like you and they want to be around you and they want to be like you, but they don't like the comparison at work, I would say, in particular. At work or in some sort of like in a social group or a political group or a social cause or something like that. It feels very much in the world where the issue is. Like on a general personal level, people really, really like you. But like where it comes to where you're most successful, that's where they have a bit of ambivalence. But that's the kind of ambivalence that comes with success anyway. So I think that's not something to be too concerned about. So let's have a look. Let's use some music and some sort of like signs and symbols and synchronicity to get a bit more of an idea as well. If that's your general energy of what people think that they're saying, but they're not saying it to you. Let's look at friends and family, look at co-workers, and then let's also look at potential or actual lovers. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a song for a sort of theme energy of how they see you, and a sign or a symbol, like a synchronistic thing to show kind of almost how they symbolize you in their head. So the song, let's do friends and family first. The song energy is Wow, bad moon rising. So friends and family are a bit scared of you. That's interesting. I think that you've got some sort of magical power and you can sort of see things coming and you avoid stuff. So, there is a little bit of jealousy in friends and family to be aware of there. But they also think that, yeah, you've got some sort of mystical powers. They may also, some of them may think that you're too sunny. It might be honestly the opposite way round, that they're kind of thinking like you think everything's wonderful and things are lucky for you, but eventually it comes to play. So if you've got any friends or family who go, you know what, like you can't be on a winning streak forever, that could be part of what's going on. But there is something going on with friends and family. And depending upon who's come to this reading, you'll know whether it's mainly family, like sibling rivalries and things like that, which could show up a lot around career, or whether it's sort of friends and so forth that, as I say, may either be a bit worried your run of luck is going to run out or think that you've got some sort of magical ability. Let's see the sign that kind of fits with that. Kind of foreboding. It's a kind of interesting. I wouldn't have expected that song, so it's interesting. Gives us a bit of nuance. Alien. Oh, wow. Misunderstood outside a hermit's spiritual journey. Okay, I think it depends. I think that your friends and family, okay, I think I get what this is saying now. The friends and family know you really well. Like you have a really strong positive energy that most people pick up, and most people only see that and they either just enjoy that or they feel a little bit jealous and don't understand the secret sauce, as I say. But I think your friends and family know that like what drives this, and this is why we had the two aces there, and then like next to a Hierophant and a King of Pentacles, the kind of sense of like what's more conventional with what's new, is that you have probably always felt a bit like an alien, a bit like you didn't fit in. So you may have made a very conscious effort to be able to understand people. Like I think you understand people very well. You've made a conscious effort to communicate well and to be nurturing and caring because you don't see that in the environment that you're in. And so it's almost like you're wearing this very sunny disposition, like you feel almost like it's a mask. Now, the interesting thing is, a couple of things around that. You wear a mask long enough, it becomes you. And I actually think you're sunnier than you think you are and your friends and family might think you are. And I think that you're actually extremely good with people. And so you aren't really as alien, but you do feel different. You do feel different. So that's interesting. The other thing is that there's that very famous Oscar Wilde quote, give a man a mask and he'll show you the truth. So I really think that, yes, there is something very different, inspirational about you. But I do also think the sunny side and the accomplishments and the people, really good understanding and balance with people is true as well. But there might be something like maybe you've come from, maybe your family and friends are from a culture that's different to where you're living, so you just feel that way anyway and expect something to come up. It just sort of depends on who comes to the reading. Let's have a look at co-workers. Now, I do think co-workers is where there could be jealousy and misunderstanding, but let's just see. It might be only one or two and it might be okay otherwise. But let's see the theme song for co-workers. I put a spell on you. Yeah. Yeah. I do think that people think you've got some secret power in the workplace and they don't know quite what it is. Let's see the symbolism theme for that. The synchronistic, symbolistic theme. Neon sign, ambition, fame, glamour, wealth. Yeah, they see you as being like a success magnet, really seen, they'd see this very strong energy and they think you've got some sort of secret that you're hiding. And the irony being that it's kind of probably what is different about you that's made you put the extra effort in, particularly when they're projecting that if it got too hard, you'd leave it with someone else and just leave. That's actually not you. Your whole life, you've made a study of people and how to get into balance and so forth and how to be successful in the world because you feel different. And how they experience it there is they think, oh, you're so ambitious, you're so successful, it's both of them kind of have a kind of like magic sort of thing. People see you as kind of magic. Then what about actual or potential lovers? Oh, lovely. Dancing in the moonlight. So actual or potential lovers see you just as a delight. you know, and like, yeah, having that ever ready battery almost that you kind of like can keep going all through the night and dancing and having fun. And that's a lovely song. I really love that song. So I think there's like a really joyful energy from lovers and potential lovers. What's the symbolism around it and how they, these are things they don't necessarily say. Remember, this whole thing is like what people think but they're not saying. Oh, that's interesting. Whole, dark, feminine, feeling trapped, death, subconscious. So I think this is like the potential, I mean, I think this is like where it doesn't work out or where they want to explore, but it is a little bit sort of scary. So the dark feminine. Like this is interesting all the way through. It's shown up as a synchronistic thing here because this feels very light, but it is in the moonlight. It's not in the sun. You're a very warm, open, sunny person. But every single person to some degree thinks underneath there must be an interesting shadow. And like your friends and family see it as a combination of you kind of preparing yourself against the worst and knowing how different you are. The workers think you've just got some sort of magic that like makes you successful. Lovers and potential lovers, this is not necessarily bad, but it does show that they see you as very powerful, and I think it's almost like a kind of, if you're this powerful with like the Empress, the world card there, in terms of feminine energy in the sunlight, then in the dancing in the moonlight, then the really powerful dark feminine energy comes up. So there, you're an interesting character, you know, like pile one. There's something here. You don't have to be a woman for this either, by the way. It's just lovers get to see the nuance, not just the Empress, but also the kind of the dark feminine and so forth. But they're drawn into you, and there is a lot of magic, a magical feeling around it. So yeah, this is interesting, the nuances of how people see you but don't speak of you. Some potential lovers may just be too in awe of you and too scared of you to come forward. Others will come and dance with you in the moonlight. All right. So let's see what you could do more or less of sort of astrologically to get all of this in balance. Because I think the main thing here is, I mean, you might enjoy having a mystique, in which case that's fine. There's no problem with it. But I think it is important for people to also, I think you want to inspire and help people as well. You are an innately generous person. So, you know, like you would want people to understand it's not like you're putting spells on things and so forth. This is actually, you're a work in progress and you're paying attention, and other people could do it as well. So let's see, what can you do more of? And, you know, what could you do less of? And then, hang on just for a second. I always write out my structure, so the first time I do it, it's in pile one, and I couldn't read my own writing. So I want to look at what you could do more of, what you could do less of, and what should you keep up your sleeve to surprise others or to give you, you know, a sort of an advantage in dealing with maybe some of the confusion here about you. So what could you do more of to bring the idea that people have of you and what they say of you more in alignment with what you would want them to think and say of you? Venus and Neptune. This is sort of the soft side. Emphasize the Temperance card. Emphasize the Empress. The live wire happiness is really good, but like the gentleness with others, like a kind of and you do have it because you're a generous person. Gentle, loving sort of energy, and maybe inspiring others to follow their own dreams is important. And certainly around potential lovers, if they're getting into this sort of spiritual side of things around the feminine aspect, make sure that they understand that you know, you're not one thing, you're both, and that all people are both. What could you do less of? Mars and Saturn, yeah. You are very successful, and you're very successful in the conventional world, and you're very ambitious. I don't think it's necessarily saying stop being ambitious, but I think you might give off in that environment a sterner sort of like persona, and very focused on achievement and focused on what's next. So like moderating it a bit more here in the sort of softer energy may help to because you actually don't mean that at all. You're a very generous, caring person, but people perceive you as this very ambitious person in the material world. And then what about what you should keep up your sleeve? And just bring out when you think you need to shift an opinion. Mercury. Okay. it's communicating what you're really thinking. I think there is a little bit of a kind of you keep some of that up your sleeve, and that's normally good. It is creating this mystique though, which can be misunderstood. So every once in a while you need to kind of express what you're thinking and ask other people to do it as well. So it's not just, taking up the room and talking because you have a very powerful personality. It's also inviting, people to speak and communicate and listening. But it's sort of like you only need to use it sparingly and when you need to shift an opinion, I think. Okay, so that's to give you a kind of an overview. Now we're at the point where we're just going to see how there's nuances depending upon what number you chose. So I don't know if you listened to the intro because not everybody does. So in the intro I said that I'm just sort of trying out something. I've done it with another reading as well that I filmed earlier today, where I'm using a tarot deck and I'm going to shuffle and I'm going to lay out 5 cards. So from 1 to 5, that is the number. So it is choosing a number. So before I start laying it out, choose a number. You might have already done it. If you haven't, I'm shuffling now. Choose the number and pause if you need to. But in a second, you can unpause or whatever if you've done that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say how this comes together depending upon which number you chose. So for 1, we have 9 of Pentacles. For 2, we have 7 of Cups reversed. For 3, we have the Knight of Wands. For 4, we have the 10 of Wands. And for 5, we have the 10 of Cups. Okay. So if you chose number 1, a dominant energy that people respond to here is how independent you are and how successful you could be. You are definitely inspirational on that sort of level. So you it's really reiterating you're likely to be very successful and a self-made sort of person. If you aren't already, that's where you're heading. The only thing to bear in mind is that can sometimes be a lonely place. So I think for your friends and family, interestingly enough, because of what they sort of feel around stuff, you can show them it's okay to be different but also connected, so that's good. But for lovers, potentially, you don't necessarily want to be on your own. In the workplace, that's probably fine, as long as if you want to stay somewhere, it doesn't make people feel insecure. If you chose number 2, a really big part of you is that you're very emotionally pragmatic. If there was anything here that's sort of coming up is that you may not be as in touch with your heart and your emotions and your emotional dreams as could be good. And this may be because of the feeling with the Bad Moon Rising song and the Alien, that you've had to put so much work into that you've almost suppressed some of your emotional energy. So that could be particularly going to this Venus Neptune. That, like, if these are really just nuances, friends sort of feel that you feel very different and they're worried for you. Workers don't really understand where you're going, and lovers think they get close, but then they think, oh my goodness, this is so powerful. Can I deal with it? Just understanding and nuancing that a bit may be all you need to get the thing in balance in the way that you would like it. If you chose number 3, you're very charismatic and you move very fast. Now, all of this probably, puts on turbocharge the stuff we're talking about. But of course, you need to be able to slow down enough to be connected with people sometimes. So it's probably very inspirational to your friends and family. It could be a little bit too aspirational for some around you. You may be too fast, too quick, too creative in the workplace. So just bear in mind, not everybody else is on the megawatt dosage of energy that you are. And for lovers, it's very charismatic, draws people in a lot, but it's sort of like there's also the moth to the flame sort of energy. If you chose number 4, you've put too much of a burden on yourself with all of this. Like, it's almost like you've built into what you're projecting to the world, always sort of achieving things, always the next thing, always a new thing. I think it would be saying lighten the load a bit, and there could be a bit of a hint here at finding those who can pick up things and do stuff as well, and sometimes just holding out your hand for help. Because you just seem like a dynamo, but, that can be a bit intimidating, and it could be putting on too much on you. And if you chose number 5, at the end of the day, you're going to, you have enough balance here that you're going to end up with a good lover. They're not all going to be frightened of you. You're going to be successful in your workplace, and your family, even if they felt a bit alien and therefore you did to start with, you're still going to have that. So it's not really going to, if you've chosen number 5, it doesn't affect the closest relationships to you in a way that either would surprise you or be an issue. So there's not a lot that you have to do about that, but it might say, make sure when you're busy being the dynamo who's moving up the ladder that you do make enough time for your closest people. So that's your reading pile number 1. I hope that resonated for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the Death card in the Spirit of Life Tarot. And I think, as I said in the introduction, that doesn't mean anything scary, unless you are a very goth sort of person and like things of like the nature of life and death and the occult are a big part of you. And for some of you, that could be the case. So that could be the energy about what comes across. But for most, the Death card is about choice, change. It could well be that people are perceiving you at the moment as being at a transition point, at sort of leaving one thing behind and starting something new. Or it could be that you are seen as someone who can help people around choice and who's comfortable with choice and change in some way. So I think it just sort of depends on the context at the moment, but it is all about choice, change, and the big ticket items. You may be someone that people come to actually when there's big choices, because you're seen to have a kind of a understanding of this, and you might seem quite mysterious. It's a sort of Scorpio card, so you might have Scorpio energy around you. Now what we have here is 3 cards from the Emotive Expressions deck, and I didn't want to see what they were. I had them under this card in the choice because we're going to discover together, firstly, if you expect an expression from people that you know and how they might respond to you, what you would think you know about it. Now this may or may not be accurate, to be honest, but because you might think everybody is incredibly happy to see you, and you might find it's the opposite sometimes, or vice versa. You might think people find you a little bit scary or distant or aloof or something, and in fact people don't. So this is, but this is what you think you know about that. This is what would surprise you to find out. And that's about people that you know already. And this is about kind of the first impression response that often happens when you meet new people. So firstly, an expression to show what you think you know people feel about you. Okay. You think people do find you a little bit scary, a little bit worrying. So for whatever reason. Now, that doesn't, or it could be an expression you see a lot when people come to you, because if you are someone that people come to when they're in distress, this may just be an expression you're very used to. So they see you as the person who's going to solve the problem. But either way, there's a kind of a pretty strong visceral sort of reaction. That's what you feel. This may or may not be accurate. We're going to sort of see as we go through with the tarot. What would surprise you? People aren't as worried as you think. They do see you as a very serious person, I have to say. They take you very seriously, and they would probably come to you about very serious things. But they're not as scared of you as you might think, or not all of them are. And some are kind of, they assess you in a sense I think you probably kind of assess them with that sort of scorpionic energy. They assess back. So you might be surprised that people see you in a more nuanced way than you think. And then when we look at what new acquaintances, how they respond, they're curious. So there's something about you. You've got a strong presence, I have to say. As I say, there's sort of scorpionic sort of feeling about it. You don't have to be Scorpio. It's just that kind of energy. You really intrigue people. Like you would stand out. And you make them curious, and you may even make them curious about if you've gone through it. One of the things that the Death card might actually be showing is that you might be a bit chameleon-like, and you might change what you do a lot. So you say this was, if I suddenly had a flash of like David Bowie, like he went through different, in the way he presented himself, different characters. And so it's very possible that those who are used to one character, who see the change and don't know what to make of it, but then others are going, oh, that's interesting. What's this all about? And new people are going, oh, that's an interesting energy. So if you're a bit of a chameleon, and that might be part of this, those who think that they know you might find it a bit hard sometimes to keep up. But then there are ones that you would surprise you are actually like, oh yeah, okay. Am I going, well, what's this going to be like? Is that going to work for you or not? And as I say, you really intrigue new people. You draw new people in. So what we're going to do is we're going to use tarot. And we're going to ask firstly about what do people praise and admire about you that they don't tell you. So we'll start as positive as possible. Then we're going to look at what do people either question, criticise, they're jealous of, they don't understand, makes them curious. And then we're going to see what people project on you, because, you know, in most relationships there's a certain degree of projection. So firstly, let's do the really positive stuff first. What do people praise about you or admire about you but don't tell you? Nine of Swords. Well, I think some of you are very goth-like. Two of Cups reversed. Page of Pentacles reversed. Seven of Pentacles. Seven of Wands reversed. I do think there's something here where some people come to you when they need to go through a change or a transition and they're scared to do it. Because like what I'm seeing here first with Seven of Wands reversed and Nine of Swords sort of bookmarking this, I think you draw people. I think you have an intensity and a comfort and a contentment with the concept of change that most people don't have. So I think you draw people to you. They what they say is, when I'm scared, when I don't know what to do, this person is really helpful. And it could be, you know, like they're scared about love. They could be scared about what they're planning in their life. They could be scared about what they're growing. I think that you are a change agent, a bit like a psychopomp for them, to take them through to a next stage when they're worried. So there's definitely that. They also think you don't scare easily. They don't think that you push yourself too much. You're not really ambitious or whatever, but nothing really phases you. So they admire that. They may see you as a bit of a lone wolf with the Two of Cups reversed. And they think that you're very flexible. You don't get sort of bogged down in anything. And yet somehow you still seem to grow. You still seem to get better off each year. You seem to be healthy and happy with what you're doing, but you're not overly ambitious. Nothing really scares or phases you, and you seem to be very happy on your own. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to be on your own or that you're necessarily on your own at the moment, because they may not know about a close love relationship you have, but they think that you're able to sort of move with energies and you don't cling on to anything too much. But as I say, that could be a little bit like, this is very admirable, but it's like, I don't know how I could be like that sort of person. So let's see what they find, curious, or they might criticize, or they might question. Six of Wands reversed. Queen of Pentacles reversed. Okay. Nine of Cups reversed. Magician reversed. Okay. Two of Wands. All right. So a big chunk of that, and I've got a lot of reverse, so it's not necessarily bad, but it is sort of things that are undercover. They think that you have a lot under your sleeve. So like on the surface, they go, you don't seem to be afraid of anything. You don't seem to be overly ambitious, and you still seem to grow somehow. You seem to be happy on your own. You don't seem to be planning it. Somehow things work for you. You just seem to go with the flow really well. Underneath, they may feel maybe you're not. You hide what you're doing too much, or you're not getting recognition you should. But I think there's almost a kind of a sense that they have that you may not be ambitious, but you're still growing. And if somebody doesn't recognize you, you're not going to commit. You're not going to commit to something. So it's kind of like you seem to be very zen about things, but there is an ego there, and you need to be recognized, or you're not going to commit to that sort of situation. They also may think that one of the reasons you aren't committing any change is that you can't really work out what you really want, and as a result sometimes they're not sure if they can believe what you say or what you're showing. So this fluidity and this change it's sometimes making people think there's another agenda under here, and there's yes, they say they're not ambitious, and yet maybe they are. Yes, they say that they are not needing anybody to be a particular way or life to be a particular way, but if it isn't that way, they're not going to stay. They're going to move on. The change could take you away as quickly as it's brought you there, and they're not sure that they understand, or that you're on the right path, or that you see a path through. So it's sort of odd. Like on one level, they do see that you work well with change and transition, and therefore you are always seeming to grow, and you don't seem to be afraid, and you don't seem to be phased. But on another level, they think that maybe a little bit of that's hidden, and that part of what makes you change is if you aren't sort of succeeding as fast as you want, or you aren't being recognized. So there's a kind of are you putting on a show that you need to you just change and you don't care. So a lot of that could be projection, by the way, but we're going to ask specifically now about projection. So what do people project on you that's really them? Five of Wands reversed, Temperance, Page of Wands, Chariot. Okay, yeah. I feel like a lot of that second row, in many ways, what people criticise or whatever is actually a bit of projection. It may be true sometimes. Maybe you don't really know what you want at the moment. You're just changing and trying things out, and people think that you have some hidden agenda and you don't. but like, it just depends where you're at in your life. But what people are projecting, firstly, they're projecting that you won't fight, you won't compete, you won't do anything because you just want peace. So you're not going to, it's more likely to be passive aggressive. It's more likely to be kind of like maneuvering and maybe even manipulating into getting what you want, rather than coming out and saying straight, I want this. So they project that. So when they avoid conflict, they think that's what you're doing. Also, when they have a lot of like creative energy, but they just can't get it started, they project that on you. So they say, this is, if it isn't working the way that you want, you'll just walk away from it. They don't understand that you do actually just go with the flow, and you're going in experiences, and you do feel like that you're growing. But they will project this sort of concept of what would stop them from pursuing what they really want. They project that on you, and they say that's what you're doing as well. Okay. So let's see how this plays out with friends and family, with co-workers, and with lovers or potential lovers. We're going to get a song and a synchronicity or symbol or sign for each of them. So a song that shows how your friends and family as a group, and there's obviously nuance within it, but as a group might be viewing you, what they might think but not tell you. Closer to the Heart. Okay, so I don't know that song. You might want to look it up, but it seems to be about being able to navigate things together and being able to chart a course together. So I think your friends and family feel this disconnect less. They kind of understand where you're coming from, and they know that you can go with the flow, and they know that the changes that you do have a reason. So they're not likely to be falling into the sort of projection thing by and large. What's the sign or synchronicity that also describes what they view but don't say about you? Umbrella, protection, catharsis, emotional support, love. So they feel loved, they feel connected. There is all of that. Even if you don't seem to commit or you seem to be moving all the time, they feel like you're there. They think you're very protective. That's all good. Like, your friends and family are not in any of this projected stuff. They just see the kind of good, and they're comfortable with it. What about co-workers? How do co-workers, or if you're in social or political groups or social causes, like whatever that would mean to you in your vocation, how do they view you? Heart of Gold. Okay, so that's interesting. They do think that you come from a very good place, I'd say, by and large. So I would say, if some of this, because I think this feels like work or ambition or whatever, it's only a small number of people, but a small number of people project a hell of a lot on you, I would say. But most think that you're coming from a beautiful place and that you're very genuine. You're not competitive. You're not any of those sort of toxic things. You're happy to grow and to let other people grow, and you change and go with the flow. So that's very positive. What's the symbol? The symbol might pick up the other ones. We'll just see. But overall, co-workers really like you. So, you feel that you cause all this sort of like consternation, but really I think you just kind of intrigue people, and they look to you for guidance more than anything. Okay, falling. Fear, anxiety, stress, loss of control. Okay, so it's both. So this is showing like some of your co-workers fall into this thing where they just don't understand you, and they project a lot. And they get fearful and anxious. But a lot of them really like you, and they really think you've got a heart of gold. So I think once they get to know you a bit better, that's probably the case. But, just as there was a divided sort of energy with the expressions, there's a bit of a divided thing around work. And then let's see, lovers or potential lovers. What might they say or think about you but not tell you? Peace of my heart. Okay, so I think there is a little bit of a fear amongst them that you may not be looking for love, that you may not commit. There could be a sort of thing like that. So that's something to be aware of. If you do see someone you really want, you need to make sure they're aware that, like, you generally go with the flow and just let things unfold, but certain things you will pursue. And the symbol energy, name meanings. Okay, so this may be saying that like the names of potential lovers around you or the ways that you name things may have an impact on whether or not people see you as being in a partnership like over here and going and navigating the flow, or whether you're someone who will be there and gone. So pay attention to the names that you give to things, and also to the names of your lovers. They might actually give you an idea about how they would respond to your energy. Okay, so let's use some astrology. Let's use planetary pairings. Firstly, what could you do more of to get the kind of response that you want from people? What could you do less of to do that? And what should you keep up your sleeve to show only when it's really necessary, kind of like an ace in the hand that you have occasionally? So what should you do more of? Uranus and Uranus, okay. I mean, you kind of like that. Like Uranus is change, it's revolution. I think it might be putting things in a bigger picture, because Uranus is bigger picture change. And so it may be that what you do is you start to really express yourself in terms of like the inspiration and the change and the big picture issues that you're dealing with. It may make it easier for those who aren't close enough to you to know what's going on anyway, to understand and not to feel as sort of dismayed by it. What could you do less of? Uranus and Neptune. Oh, okay, it's just clarification. It's fine that you're a changeable person. You're a chameleon. It's fine that you can go with that. You're born to do this. And I think you're born to help other people and channel some of it into a bigger issue, a social issue, a political issue, a work issue, or something like that. But like the thing that you should do less of is like letting it be confused. Like articulating this is very, very important. And what should you hold up your sleeve for, the times you really need to push a sense of you through? Moon and Venus. So like when you love, when you care. And I think a lot of that's got actually to do with love. I think that your friends and family know who you are and they get it. Workmates, colleagues or whatever, they're not clear on what all this is about, and they could project a hell of a lot on you. So it's like tie it to a bigger cause and clarify that's what the change is about. But like when it comes to like love, you've got to be more open. You've got to be more open, because people may feel that you're not going to commit and you may want to commit. And as I say, it's like people almost feel you don't need love, but you do. You want love as much as anyone else. Okay, so to finish off, what I did say in the introduction, and I don't know whether everybody listened to the introduction, so I'll say it now. So I'm just testing out a different way of closing out a reading, where I use a different tarot deck and I just shuffle and I deal out 5 cards. And that is to represent the numbers 1 through to 5. You need to choose one of those, because depending upon which you choose, I'm going to go one by one with them and I'm going to say what I believe is the synthesizing message for you if you chose number 1 or chose number 3 or whatever. So if you haven't chosen the number, please do it now while I'm shuffling, or pause, and then once I stop shuffling, you'll have your number. So, number 1, 6 of Swords reversed. Number 2, the Lovers reversed. Number 3, 5 of Cups reversed. Number 4, the Sun reversed. Number 5, 3 of Swords reversed. Okay, there's a lot going within in all of this, going within and understanding your journey and what you're really doing, and then maybe expressing it more is a kind of overarching message for all of you. But if you chose number 1, I think what you need to understand, where you need to focus on to clarify, because I think clarifying and being open where there's love, but like clarify most, is that you aren't really lacking a direction. That you do kind of know what you're doing, because I think that the 6 of Swords reverse doesn't feel all that peaceful. And I think that people who just see change and change and change and change may not feel it's peaceful. So I think understand that, clarify what the long-term goal is. Even if with the 6 of Swords reversed, part of the change process, you don't know exactly what the journey is going to be, clarify the goal. If you chose number 2, this is very much connecting to the lovers and potential lovers. You do need to give some more thought to that and how you bring them along for the journey and get them to know that if you are a chameleon and a change agent, that you can still commit. Again, I felt really drawn to David Bowie as an example of this, in terms of his artwork. I mean, he eventually fell in love with a woman and married her and lived with her for many, many, many years up until he left this mortal coil. So it's not that the chameleons can't commit. I think that's something that you need to focus on now to bring the love that you want into your life or to secure the love that you have. If you chose number 3, some of what drives you potentially to change might have been a disappointment you haven't quite processed. So it is important to go within and work that out. Because if you've become like a change agent just to keep ahead of disappointment, it's not even going to work that well for you and it'll exhaust you. So I do think that there's sort of something for you in all of this where an earlier disappointment has impacted this. So go back and examine that and work out what is valid in change and what you would change in change itself, so to speak. If you chose number 4, there's nothing wrong with being a chameleon and doing this, and it's working for you, but there may be a calling of your life path that you're avoiding a bit. So I would go back to friends and family around that. I think that they will give you the sort of support and the advice if you feel that's the case. And if you chose number 5, you don't feel the same pain in change and leaving things that other people do. So again, particularly around lovers, but even around people in the workplace or whatever, either you need to give the message that you changing direction, changing things is not necessarily leaving them, or you need to understand that other people are more sensitive to that. So all of that is just sort of, as they say, counsels and perfection. There's nothing actually wrong with what you're doing. And by and large, it's working. But just knowing those nuances to make the relationships what you want them to be, I think is important. So I hope that resonated for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the star. So just on its first basic levels, you may well be seen as a star. Some of you may be performers and a star, so people see you in that sort of light and talk about you in that light. So there may be a nuance across this around the persona that people see presented publicly and who you are, but equally there's a star quality about you. There's also a sense that you know who you are and you're on your own life path and you might be inspirational to others. Also that you create your own light. One of the things I think the star compared to the moon is a reflected light. The star creates its own light. It's like the sun, but it is probably a lesser intensity for this is the life path. It's more the aspired thing out in the celestial realm. So I feel that you come across to people as having star quality, as having a sense of who you are, very spiritually guided, all of those sort of things. So that will permeate this reading. What we have here are 3 cards from the Emotive Expressions deck, and so they're just faces showing emotions. And I didn't want to know what they were. I just shuffled and put them under this card because this is going to be what you kind of expect or know that people around you react. It might be all people or it might be particular people that you're thinking about, like in a workplace or in your friendship circle or whatever. This is what might surprise you about reactions, and this is what new people meeting you, how they first react. So in all of these, the kind of expression or what you think you know may or may not be right. Remember that. This may be a little bit more nuanced and accurate because of what surprises you, or it might be you're right about some and some you're not right about. And this is, of course, just that first reaction, which, of course, will develop over time. So remembering that you have a star quality. This is the response that you kind of know about from people. Right, okay. Well, some of you might have a significant star quality. Some of you might almost make people a bit addicted to you. The star does have a very strong charismatic energy. So in some, you may kind of bring a kind of adoration that is almost enervating to them. Some may be like feeling completely unable to reach you. Like you're a distant star, like you're as distant as the stars. This person might be lying on a bed looking out at the stars at night. Or you could be quite hypnotizing to people as well. So it sort of depends. And you kind of know this. You know that you get these sort of strange, romanticized, but somehow indolent and almost addicted sort of responses. So you know about that. You know that people kind of can respond to you that way. What would surprise you? Okay, this looks like people responding to a star quality. As I say, that some of you may be performers or very successful, but otherwise it is just that you have this charisma. So I think for the most part you kind of get this. You kind of get a feeling that people get almost a bit hypnotized by you and like kind of almost sad in like kind of melancholic. But some are actually really intrigued and they see you as inspirational. I think some look at you as a light they can't reach, and some, and this would surprise you, look at you as an aspiration, like they could find their own light. Like this person almost looks like they're looking for their own light. They're kind of in shadow, but they're looking for that. And what about new people when they first meet you? They're kind of shocked. I think some of you might be famous coming to this. If not, you're very, very charismatic, very bright, and it's very exciting. And I think some kind of either like can't deal with it or get kind of addicted and hypnotized. And some start to think, could I be like you? So yeah, you have very strong star quality. Okay. So given that, let's have a look at, with the tarot, we're going to have a look firstly at what do people praise about you? What's good that people say that you don't know about? Let's start positive. Then let's have a look at what they might either criticize or question or not understand or be curious about. And then we're going to look at what they project on you, because in all relationships there is a certain amount of projection. So, okay, what do people praise about you that they don't say to your face, but they say about you to others that is praising and admiring? The World, the Nine of Swords, the Eight of Swords reversed, the Ten of Swords. Oh, this is interesting. The Ten of Swords reversed, the Four of Cups reversed. I think if you aren't already doing this, I think that you're going to do this. I think you're going to do something for the world. Now, whether that is on a really big stage, like a big political person or a big social activist or something, or whether it's very much in your local community, there is a sense of you're here for a reason, and you are kind of like shining in something that is meant to sort of like be achieved. And what makes it interesting is that everything else here is dealing with issues. Like there's a kind of like, it's like you're here to bring light where there is fear, to liberate thinking where people have just got stuck in fear, to end wars and conflict and a lot of mental issues, and break people out of emotional blocks. So there's a few ways this could work out. If you are a star or a performer, there's something about your message that lifts people out of both the mental stress of today's life and emotional blocks. If you are some sort of social activist, you've come to do something to free that sort of energy for people. And some people are a bit exhausted, some people want to join in, and some are excited. If you were potentially actually a star therapist, someone whose charisma and energy and focus and light that you shine helps people deal with all of that, that puts a very interesting complexion on this. It may be that quite often the way that you first meet people is kind of a combination of these. It's like when they're at a low ebb, but they get surprised that something possible could happen. So I think you're a performer, or you're going to be a performer, some sort of social activist or something like that, or some form of therapist, or maybe, I don't know, writer or something like that brings new ideas and breaks through blocks. But people see you as bringing peace, bringing calm, bringing freedom, taking people out of anxiety, breaking blocks, like you could probably go and start a cult as well. Not that I recommend you do that, but you have that kind of quality. Okay, so that's pretty powerful. So what do people either criticize or question, or they're curious and they don't fully understand about you? Six of Swords, Seven of Cups reversed, Ten of Wands, Ace of Pentacles, Eight of Pentacles reversed. Okay. It's not a lot of critique here, I've got to say. It's not really critique. but they don't understand. So what they question and they don't understand is that you just always seem to have the answer. You just always seem to know. I think you're probably very, very articulate. Whatever you do, whether it's sort of performing, activism, therapy or whatever, like you really understand human nature and you really understand the mind and psychology, and you're very able to do that, and it gives you a huge amount of gravitas, like emotionally resonant. You're realistic, you're calm, you're peaceful. You could be a peace negotiator as well, a star peace negotiator. But they don't really understand that because it seems to them like everything is so, there's so much to deal with, it's so turbulent, it's so heavy. Like how do you manage to do that? They don't get it. And they don't understand. You have a view about healing something and starting something new. They don't get that. They don't understand what it is that you might want to grow. And they can see that you're a master at what you do, but they don't. It's like you're a magician as well. That'd be the other thing. Like you could almost have the magician as the second card there, because it's like they feel like there's something, you have some trick up your sleeve that they don't understand. And so there is the one issue that they could have that some might raise is if they join you, if they follow you, if they get involved, because you seem to have all the answers, is there going to be too much of a burden in building a new world? And are they going to be up to it? So I think it's much more like, and that also that ties, look, like, can I do it? Can I even be part of this? Can I be in the inner circle of this person? That's the kind of energy. So they're not really criticizing you, but they're wondering what's involved in being connected with you. So what are they projecting on you? Knight of Cups reversed. The Magician reversed. There you go. There's the Magician. Ace of Cups reversed. Six of Wands. Okay. All right. So I do think it'll be very interesting. We are going to look at how this works with lovers and potential lovers. I do think that they may project on you that it's kind of all about you. All about you. It's all about recognition. It's all about stardom. And therefore, you can't necessarily be trusted if you're talking of love. Like, I think that, like, at its worst, if people can't see what you're trying to do, which comes from a very pure place, but they see you're so good at it, they think, oh, I can't trust that. Like, this is all false. This is all about them. This is all narcissistic. This is all a performance or whatever. Or even that you're not even interested in love or any of those things. You're so involved in kind of political stuff, and that it's all about winning. So there could be that kind of energy as well. But remember, that's what they're projecting on you. In your place, if they had your kind of charisma, that's what they would probably do if they're thinking that about you. But remember, you do need to be aware of that. The people will project stuff. And if they're frustrated about bringing love into their life or having recognition, they're going to amplify that in terms of projecting on you and saying that's what you're being driven by. Okay, so we're going to have a look at different types of relationships. We're going to look at friends and family, then we'll have a look at co-workers or, co-activists or whatever it might be, or even to some degree patients if you are a therapist or something like that. And then we're going to have a look at lovers and potential lovers. And for each of them, we're going to get a song for the kind of energy, the theme that they would have around what they think of you, but again, don't tell you, and also a symbol or a sign that sort of represents some of it as well. So, friends and family. Light my fire. Okay. You might have some friends who see you as more than a friend, I would have to say. But otherwise, I think that people think you're very inspirational around your friends and family. But you could have some secret admirers with that in your friendship group. What is the sign or symbol energy around this? School or exam, learning new things, feeling tested, stress, anxiety. Some of your friends and family may feel that because you seem to be so sure that they almost are being tested each time they're around you. Maybe particularly if someone's got a crush, they might feel like they're always trying to prove themselves to you. So there could be a little bit of that. But it could also be with your family that it's part of your family to be aspirational and have big goals. And it's always been a thing that, you're always testing yourself. And so they would approve of that. They would approve that you're always testing yourself, pushing the boundaries, all of that kind of energy. What about co-workers, co-activists, as I say, patients, whatever it might be, depending upon what you do, because you do something interesting, I would say. The sound of silence. Wow. I think I think for many of your co-workers or whatever, you kind of, your light, your ideas, your voice drowns out the room a bit. But they also see you as very profound. Let's see the symbol. What an interesting song to come up. Secret room. Yeah, they think there's something else. Like people in particular around your career, like a lot of them think there's something else underneath all of this. And at its worst, they project some form of kind of star narcissism sort of thing, which I don't think is where you're coming from at all. But they think there's something secret under all of it. And sometimes they may be struck silent just to try and get to that, just to try and hear the words beneath the words. So you're very intriguing to them, I have to say. Then what about lovers and potential lovers? Time in a Bottle. Okay, that's a lovely song that's sort of about how we capture and keep beautiful memories. So, God, a few things sort of like, I mean, certainly the sort of sense of like the shooting star. Sometimes they may feel that like love comes and goes too quickly because you're always sort of like focused on what you're trying to do. Also, you know, the argument that we're all made of stardust and that many of the stars we see in the sky have already sort of burst and have died, quote unquote. So, and like it may be that lovers in particular like to kind of like have you on film. I'm not meaning anything dodgy there, just for have you on film, like photos and things like that, because they want to capture this sort of like brilliant energy. What's the sign or symbol that goes with that time in a bottle? Union. Okay. So that's pretty good. Like I think that when you have a lover, they really love you, and you may have one great love and that's it, and then like you're just encapsulating everything, and this is, you know, living an extraordinary life, or they see you as living an extraordinary life and they want to record it and keep it all and cherish it all. But it's a pretty good energy. I don't think this causes many problems at all around love. It's interesting that I think some people project on you that maybe you're heartless. It might be quite, you know, because they aren't succeeding and so they're doing that. It may be quite private, you know, lovers or potential lovers. Very sacred sort of energy there. Okay, so let's have a look with astrology, with pairings of planets, what you could do more of, what you could do less of, and what you can keep up your sleeve and only show when it's going to be really advantageous. So given this dynamic, given like the extent of your sort of charisma and the way it affects different people, what could you do more of to get your relationships the way that you want them to be? Saturn and Pluto. I think this is picking up some of this energy actually. So I think it's like the kind of sense of making the connection sacred, like in time, because change, there's always change and there's always evolution, but like what you keep through the vastness of time. I feel like that it's like what can you cherish in each of these things and kind of almost make impervious to change. Because you deal with a lot of change and a lot of evolution, all that kind of thing. But what can you bring a safe harbor to, and much as it is with lovers, kind of keep the precious memories. What can you do a little bit less of? Uranus and Pluto, like you deal with some really big issues, and like you're probably always going to do that, but it's like that can give the sense that you're a shooting star, that things go really quickly, that like there's stuff going on with this that people don't even know and powers that they don't even know. So that's why bringing some stability into it is good. And what can you keep up your sleeve? Moon and Mars. I think you keep like your passion very much private, and I think that works for you. But I think also showing the heart behind what you're doing, and that the ambition comes from the heart and the emotion. It's not just kind of from I just want to be a star. That shown sparingly and at the right times will really work for you. Okay, so to finish off, in case you didn't see an introduction, if you saw the introduction, you knew this was coming, but like just in case you didn't, I'm just testing out a new way of finishing readings. I'm not going to do it with all readings, but I did it with another one that I filmed earlier today, and I don't know which you're going to see first, so that's why I'm explaining it. What I'm doing is I'm asking you to think of a number from 1 to 5. That will correspond to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tarot cards that I shuffle and deal out. And so if you are number 3, that when I get to talking about that, that's the summation of this energy for you, and so forth. If you're number 5, it will be when I get to number 5. So if you haven't already chosen one, please choose a number between 1 and 5 now as I shuffle, or pause if you feel the need to do it. Once you have that, you can unpause. So for those who chose number 1, we have the Page of Pentacles reversed. For those who chose number 2, we have the King of Wands. For those who chose number 3, we have Strength reversed. For those who chose number 4, we have Justice. And for those who chose number 5, we have the Six of Wands reversed. Okay, so for those who chose number 1, maybe something that would be helpful, because you think very quickly, you deal with conflict very quickly, and you move very quickly. You're like a shooting star and you have a lot of presence. Maybe something that could help is to put a plan together that can involve other people a bit more so they understand it. I think you would be sort of someone who, and I was a bit like this to be honest, who at work, when somebody said do a project plan, you kind of want to run screaming from the room, because you'd be like, oh, but we've got to be flexible and we've got to deal with all this. But you know what, when I was forced to sit down and do it, was a useful thing to do. So it's because it helps plan things and it helps get a shared understanding. So I think there's something here about bringing people in on the planning, on what you're trying to achieve, like kind of draw together a kind of group of participants, because certainly from that second, what would surprise you about how people respond to you, there are some who really do want to sort of follow you and want to be involved and want to play their part. If you chose number 2, a lot of this is about your charisma. You're highly charismatic, probably could very well be a performer, or would be able to bring performance-based energy into this. You are meant to lead. And some people are not going to understand this, but what you're doing is important. So don't worry too much or sweat about, the people who are projecting on you or not understanding it. You're a born leader. If you chose number 3, you may not yet be showing your full strength, which is interesting because a lot of people are responding to this sort of dazzling energy, but I think it could be wise. I think it's a wise thing you keep your strength hidden until it's the right time to show it. And that's part of what makes you effective. And if you think about that and how you nuance your relationships, that will also be helpful. If you chose number 4, I definitely think there is something about social justice or societal or political or spiritual justice associated with this. You have a cause. You came in with this energy with a cause, and it is a cause. If people misunderstand that and think it's narcissistic, they have truly misunderstood it. You really have a cause. Similarly, if you chose number 6, this is also a very strong indication that you are not about getting glittering prizes or being seen or being heralded. This is not about ego to you. It's actually really ego-less. There is the possibility that people project on you the concept that it's all about ego, but it isn't. You are about the cause. And again, the more that you can actually show that, probably the better. But some people are just going to project. So don't worry about that. It's not all about you. You have an energy that's probably coming from the stars, from the celestial realms, because you have a message and you are here for peace and for solving, almost wicked problems. So just focus on that. This is not about you wanting to aggrandize yourself. If you ever worry that that's the case, that's not where you're coming from. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.